Alright, one more video for today. Obadiah. This will take us basically up to Jeremiah. When we get started reading again next time, we're going to begin the great, magnificently long work of Jeremiah. So then we have Jeremiah and the Lamentations, which is a sequel to Jeremiah, and then Ezekiel. Two really long works to get through before we can resume the narrative. And then Daniel. Before we get to that, we have to get through Obadiah. I have waited until now to read Obadiah, because I honestly don't know exactly when Obadiah gives his message. There are two times. Obadiah is going to be talking exclusively about Edom. He's going to be talking about Edom and their upcoming judgment for their mistreatment of the Judeans when something bad happens to the Judeans. The Edomites, of course, are the descendants of Esau. And they have been, Esau and Jacob patched up their differences in their lifetimes, but their descendants did not. And from the time that the Israelites came up out of Egypt, basically the rest of their history, the Edomites are going to be enemies of Israel, and there's going to be a long hostility there that will never really go away. So Obadiah is going to be pronouncing the doom of Edom based on their historical animosity to Israel, and in particular a specific act of standing by and mocking the Israelites, the Judahites, in the day of their distress and destruction, and actually helping their enemies with the destruction. It seems as though he's talking about the fall of Jerusalem at the hands of the Babylonians. I don't know exactly. There are two instances where that he could be fitting into here. I'm going to go back and read briefly the account in Chronicles of Jehoram, a king of Judah who had lots of problems. Jehoram. This is in the years kind of in the years after the reign of Ahab, when the royal families of the two kingdoms, north and south, intermarried and got entangled with each other. And this is going to be part of that untangling process, which will end up culminating in Athaliah, the daughter of Ahab, taking over the kingdom of Judah for a while and massacring all the rivals to the throne except for a baby boy, Joash. This is before that. This is Jehoram, king of Judah. 2 Chronicles 21, verse 8. In the time of Jehoram, Edom rebelled against Judah and set up his own king. So Jehoram went there with his officers and all his chariots. The Edomites surrounded him and his chariot commanders, but he rose up and broke through by night. To this day, Edom has been in rebellion against Judah. And then there's more information about that later on, as well as in the book of Kings. That could be what Obadiah is living. That could be the time period Obadiah is living in. I waited until now, at the time of the fall of Jerusalem, to read this book, because it seems like Obadiah's full fulfillment of his prophecy doesn't come until now. Jeremiah, in his book, is going to have a section that is extremely similar to what Obadiah says here. So I just decided to wait until, I don't know really when Obadiah comes along. He could come in, he could be fitted in anywhere from 850 BC to 600 BC. We know nothing about him except his name, Obadiah. We don't have his hometown. We don't have any trace of his genealogy. We don't have any idea what he did. We have a bunch of other guys named Obadiah. We read about a guy in charge of the Guild of Prophets in the days of Elisha, who was ministering at the time of Ahab and Jezebel and trying to hide the prophets while Elisha was fighting Ahab. I don't think it's that Obadiah. But we have a lot of guys with that name. We have no idea if this is one of them or somebody else entirely. We have no indication of his hometown, his background, his genealogy, his career, his profession, or anything. So we really don't have any way of saying precisely when he came along or what exactly he's referring to. He could be referring to the Edomite conduct when they rebelled against Israel at different times in their history, or what they did when Jerusalem fell to the Babylonians. I don't know. This is a very short book, shortest in the Old Testament, one of the shortest in the entire Bible, only 21 verses or so. So we will get through this pretty quickly. And a lot of this content is going to be repeated in Jeremiah and Ezekiel, which would indicate to me that he's really talking about the fall of Jerusalem. Obadiah himself may have come along earlier than that, and he may have been speaking about a previous uprising by Edom. And then Jeremiah and Ezekiel take that message and expand on it and apply it to their day. It's possible. I really honestly don't know. So Obadiah. There's only one chapter. We don't even have a chapter. We just Obadiah verse 1. The vision of Obadiah. This is what the sovereign Lord says about Edom. We have heard a message from the Lord. An envoy was sent to the nations to say, "Rise, and let us go against her," Edom, the country of Edom, for battle. You see, I will make you, Edom, small amongst the nations. You will be utterly despised. The pride of your heart has deceived you. You who live in the clefts of the rocks and make your home on the heights. You who say to yourself, "Who can bring me down to the ground?" Edom's capital city was up on a cliff. That was very hard to get to, very hard to reach. Because of that, they thought they were impregnable and impossible to topple. Though you soar like the eagle and make your nest among the stars, from there I will bring you down, declares the Lord. If thieves came to you, robbers in the night, only a disaster awaits you. Will they not steal only as much as they wanted? If grape pickers came to you, would they not leave a few grapes? That refers to the practice of letting the grapes fall to the ground for the poor. When you harvest your grapes, letting some of them fall to the ground and not picking them up, so that the poor and the widows and the needy can go through and pick them up and have something to eat. It's like even if grape pickers came to you, even if thieves came to you, they leave something behind. They wouldn't take everything. And how Esau will be ransacked, his hidden villages, his hidden treasures pillaged. Again, Edom was a nation that descended from Esau. All your allies will force you to the border. Your friends will deceive and overpopulate. That doesn't sound like friends to me. Huh? I guess they thought they were friends, but they really weren't. Those who eat your bread will set a trap for you, and you will not detect it. In that day, declares the Lord, will I not destroy the wise men of Edom, men of understanding in the mountains of Esau? Your warriors, O Timon, will be terrified. That's a city in Esau, in Edom. And everyone in Esau's mountains will be cut down in the slaughter. Because of the violence against your brother Jacob, you'll be covered with shame. So here's the reason why this is happening. Here's the reason why they're condemned. Because of the violence against your brother Jacob, you'll be covered with shame. You'll be destroyed forever. On the day you stood aloof, while strangers carried off his wealth, and foreigners entered his gates and cast lots for Jerusalem, you were like one of them. You should not look down on your brother in the day of his misfortune, nor rejoice over the people of Judah in the day of their destruction. So not only did they just stand by and watch, they rejoiced. They were happy to see Jerusalem suffer. Nor boast so much in the day of their trouble. You should not march through the gates of my people in the day of their disaster, nor look down on them in their calamity in the day of their disaster, nor seize their wealth on the day of the disaster. So not only did they just stand by and watch, they boasted, they celebrated, they were rejoicing in the fall of Jerusalem. And then, I guess, presumably after the hard work was done, they joined in on the pillaging and the plundering. You should not wait at the crossroads to cut down their fugitives, nor hand over their survivors in the day of their trouble. The day of the Lord is near for all nations. As you have done, it will be done to you. We read about that just now in Habakkuk. What happened to what the Assyrians did to the Babylonians ended up doing to the Assyrians. And the Babylonians then started doing that to everybody else. And so, 80 years from now, the Persians are going to come and do that to the Babylonians. And then 100 years after that, the Greeks are going to come and do that to the Persians. And a couple hundred years after that, the Romans are going to come to death to the Greeks. This cycle just keeps continuing. And here it happens to the Edomites. As you have done, it will be done to you. Your own deeds will return upon your own head. Evil has within it the seeds of its own destruction. When God told the serpent in the garden, back in Genesis 3, that the seed of the woman is going to come and bruise your head, he ended up doing that by getting the serpent himself to put Jesus on the cross. The seeds of evil's own destruction are within itself. Just as you drank on my holy hill, so all the nations will drink continually. They will drink and be as if they had never been. But on Mount Zion there will be deliverance. It will be holy, and the house of Jacob will possess its inheritance. The house of Jacob will be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame. But the house of Esau will be stubble, and they will set it on fire and consume it. There will be no survivors from the house of Esau. The Lord has spoken. People from the Negev will accompany the mountains of Esau, or occupy, the mountains. The Negev was a region of the southern part of Judah. Will occupy the mountains of Esau, and people from the foothills will possess the land of the Philistines. They will occupy the fields of Ephraim and Samaria, and Benjamin will possess Gilead. The company of Israelite exiles who are in Canaan will possess the land as far as Zarephath. The exiles from Jerusalem who are in Sepharad will possess the towns in the Negev. This is why I think this is ultimately referring to the destruction of Jerusalem at the hands of the Babylonians, because he's referring to exiles from the north and the south. And so this tends to make me think we're talking about the exile here. Deliverers will go up on Mount Zion to govern the mountains of Esau, and the kingdom will be the Lord's. So Esau, Edom, and all their hostility against the Jews will ultimately have their land claimed by the people of God. Not necessarily the physical descendants of the Jews, but the faithful remnant that we talked about before. And Edom, like all the other nations that Isaiah has talked about, or Nahum or Habakkuk, will be swept away, and there'll be nothing left but those who swear allegiance to the Lord. Okay, so that's Obadiah. That's all there is to Obadiah. I could have done that one a while ago because I don't know really where it goes. I put Joel early, put Joel first. I could have done Obadiah around the same time as I did Joel, but I decided to wait until now. The next book is going to be Jeremiah. We're going to have Jeremiah and then Lamentations, which is also probably written by Jeremiah, and then Ezekiel and then Daniel. And then at some point we'll eventually get back to finishing off the last chapter or last paragraph of Kings and Chronicles, and then we'll move on to the rest of the historical books, Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther. So that's that. And so Jeremiah is next. Jeremiah is a long one. It's actually the longest prophetic book in terms of sheer, I think, word and sentence count. Doesn't have as many chapters as Isaiah, but it's a longer book, I think, in general. But it's not, to me, it's not as difficult as Isaiah because it doesn't have so much just wave to wave of poetry. Jeremiah has lots of narrative in it, and also divides his book up into time chunks better. So it's easier to follow, at least according to the way my brain works. But he doesn't have it arranged in chronological order, of course. That would be asking too much. Even, it's asking a lot of these Hebrew prophets to just give us dates for their prophecies, period. That's asking a lot. Most of them don't even do that. It's just asking too much of them to actually arrange their book according to the dates. Ezekiel will kind of do that. He's the closest one who's going to come to doing that. But I mean, you're asking a lot just to get a date from these people, let alone arrange their book according to the dates. Like, that's just not going to happen. Okay? These people just didn't think that way. That's not how their minds worked.